Hi, my name is Ben, and this is a record of my experiences as part of the 2013 excavation team that was working in a site near the spring of Jezreel, as well as being part of a larger group that was simultaneously excavating at the tell of Jezreel, the hill. The idea behind this dig is to better understand the past 7,000 years of occupation in these particular sites. In terms of living area, we actually lucked out. Most, if not all, of the archaeology team stayed at the Kibbutz Jezreel. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. But it was advantageous because it was close to the dig site. The Kibbutz is a communal community. Nobody really owns anything. It's sort of like communism on a small community level, I guess.
Okay, so this is our humble little abode, so to speak, in the good old Rekba building. We sleep here, and it's a little chilly, but it's a lot of fun, and we've had a great time thus far. So as we proceed backwards, we have a little kitchenette. It is quite lovely. Got a few nice things, and a nice place for relaxation after a long day. So it's a little cramped here. I'm gonna kind of head on up, but as you can see, stairwell, kitchen, Wi-Fi. We can't get Wi-Fi down there, but you get it back here, which is oodles and noodles of excitement. It's your connection to the world, so to speak, I guess. Although with 20 or so people, it gets kind of frazzled sometimes. Another air conditioner, and then you're off into the field.
We started each morning at 4:30, got up, got dressed, got our equipment, so we were ready to leave at around 5 a.m. Keep in mind this is Israel, which is 7 hours ahead of the state's east coast, where I live. So effectively I woke up at 9:30 yesterday evening. The first thing we had to do at the sites we had been assigned was to get rid of all the weeds and plant growth before we could even start digging. Each site was assigned a supervisor who had past archaeological experience, and we then cleared dirt and rocks in a particular square. The square had to be cleared in such a manner so that it was always level. In addition, there were very strict rules as to what you could and could not collect. You could only collect objects that were completely in the square, and you couldn't dig in specific areas searching for objects. The main objective when digging is documentation. That's part of the reason there is a significant effort to take lots of pictures, videos, not only for publicity for the universities involved to some extent, in order to financially support further research, but also because documentation is important. It is important to know things like what the level of the soil was where the object was found. If you find something, even if it looks nice, as a layperson but you don't know where it was found, it's useless to the research. We had to be somewhat careful in how we dug. We couldn't just pull out stones, we had to dig around them to see if they formed some kind of structure first, which happened to be the case in the square that I was digging in.
Okay, so it started out that last week, about halfway through the week, as we were taking up all the stones, I started noticing that some of these larger stones, you can see here and here, seem to be very much a linear line, more compared to everything else we were cleaning up.
After the square had been leveled a little deeper, or if a significant artifact had been found, the exact location of the depth of the square had to be found and recorded.
So basically this is your total station right here, and what that does is that shoots a laser from the total station to the prism rod right there, and once the laser hits the prism rod, it reflects back to the total station. You do that with 3 known locations, so that way you can triangulate your position in space.
Now, me being the intellect that I am, beg the question, why can't we just use measuring tape?
Can't use a measuring tape because we have to know our location above sea level.
And we're not above sea level.
And we are above sea level. We are above sea level.
Okay. Finding an artifact or significant changes in soil once you reach a certain depth can prompt a measurement. So it's important to take note of different soil composition.
Alright, well here we are in Trench 14, and as you can see, it's kind of a big mess. Right now we have this big pile of stones that we're trying to figure out right now what it is exactly.
I think it turned out to be nothing, unfortunately. The archaeologist in charge tried to set up the square in areas that they suspected were likely sites of a building. I was fortunate enough to work in a square that covered a wall. Not everyone was as lucky.
Okay, this square U14, we dug down several centimeters down and found nothing but layers of rocks, leading us to believe that we're going to continue with layers of rocks. So we decided to abandon this square, close it for the season, and open up a new square. This square S13, we encountered a nice wall running through it with collapse on this side and a possible living surface coming up here. So the next square we'll open will be over here, hoping to continue to pick up the rest of the wall and maybe the corner parallel wall here and the rest of the living surface.
I'm the registrar for these two areas here in Area S North, where Ben is digging, and Area S South. And my job is to tag all of the finds. We have to give each of the finds a specific tag to know exactly where they come from. So the pottery, the flints, the bones, the special artifacts, all of that get tagged so that later we know exactly where they are from. I also keep the records for this. And so on the tags, each tag gets a purple stripe if it's in Area S North, where Ben is digging, or a orange stripe if it's in Area S South, and then Jez for Jezreel, and then 13 for 2013, S for Area S, and then the locus number. The locus number means it's a smaller area exactly where the person is digging. When we first open up a square, the whole square gets one locus number because there's no features that are distinguishing it to separate one area from another. But when you find a wall like Ben did in his square, this is Ben's square, S13, this wall then means that whatever is on this side of the wall can't be the same as what's on that side of the wall. And so therefore you get different locus numbers because you're in a completely different kind of world on both sides. And Ben was up here in locus 21, and then when they dug down deep enough that they were below the wall, then it got a new locus number, 34. And on this daily plan that I do every day, which is just a sketch plan, the locus numbers are in red, the pottery bucket numbers are in blue, and the wall numbers are in green.
Just to run through the squares, in off this square here, which is R9, we've come down on a surface which has got a much lighter, much more compact soil with flat-lying pottery. So we're just extending over there to see if the surface continues, and we think it might be part of some sort of courtyard. And so what we're trying to do here is firstly see if it continues. Now clearly it doesn't come over this far because here in S9 they're actually deeper than that already, so we know that this surface doesn't come over this far. We may have a wall over there behind Rayfan, so we're just taking back another strip of soil to come up against the wall to see if that is in fact what it is. And then over in T8 in Hilda Square we have got a possibility of a wall, a possibility of another couple of surfaces, so we're now opening a slightly wider area to either prove or disprove that that's what's going on.
Later toward the end of the week, I had the opportunity to go up on the tell and see the site that was being worked on there.
Okay, this area was pretty much occupied up until 1948, and in 1948, when the state of Israel became a nation, there were people who came and bulldozed and moved some of the Palestinian or Arab villagers here out. And so what we're doing is digging on top of a lot of that. We're trying to collect some of that material because we want to maintain that culture as well. So we're keeping some of the pottery, we're trying to record what the village was like so we can actually pass that on if somebody wants to have that information.
Fairly modern debris, metal sheets, barbed wire, glasses, all sorts of stuff. Because probably when they destroyed the village with the bulldozer, they pushed everything down and they stopped here because of the scarp. They didn't dare to go any further.
And now we're pretty much digging above what we think might be a 9th century foundation to a large house, one that's about 3 meters long and pretty wide. So and there's incredibly intricate water system that seems to be going on here. So right now the pottery is sitting at modern and Byzantine and a mixture hodgepodge because we're doing a lot of topsoil. But we're getting there.
Here it's more interesting here. Here they cut a little flat, probably to set their first mud brick. Here also they modified, slightly modified. Here they kept some bumps here, and in between either they carved some stones and laid their brick on top of it. So it would really hold well because it's grounded directly onto the bedrock.
So we're hoping that we can uncover a large foundation that might be able to be linked back to the 9th century, but we'll see.
After around 12 o'clock, the temperature got really hot. So generally we called it a day, so we packed up and we were ready to leave. We were back at the kibbutz around 2:30. All the equipment had to be packed and the squares had to be covered by collapsing the tents, and then some volunteers would take the pottery that was collected for that day and take it down to the creek to wash it. Later in the afternoon, around 4 o'clock, was pottery reading, and this is where the pottery or any kind of artifact, mostly stone tools, would be examined, but mostly pottery.
We found a lot of pottery.
This is the one you mentioned, Morgan, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we are doing pottery reading, which means sorting pottery, looking for diagnostic parts. The diagnostic parts are either rims, bases, decorations, and that kind of stuff. And we try to, reading means finding what period it is from. And by that, kind of understanding where we're at the dig.
This stuff was gathered and examined according to where it was found, which square, and what was the depth. These few diagnostic pieces were collected and the rest were returned to the site. Overall, despite the flies, the dry weather, the nosebleeds because of the dry weather, I would consider it a pretty awesome experience. It was nice being part of something as cool as the first dig on a previously untouched site. Before I left, I had the opportunity to get some final thoughts from one of the directors of the expedition.
Well, I'm Dr. Norma Franklin, and it's been my dream to excavate Jezreel. So now I've got the dirt of 2 weeks excavation behind me, and it's been very exciting. At Jezreel, we've got all the periods. We knew that we had the very early, the Neolithic, which is New Stone Age, all the way through Chalcolithic, which is the Stone and Iron Age, Early Bronze, Late Bronze, Iron Age, which is the biblical period, the Old Testament period of the Old Testament. And so we decided to open some squares near the spring of Jezreel, and it's been really great because although I would have liked to have found later material, it's pleased many of us on the team because we found very, very early material. And when I say early material, we've found the latest of the early material is the early Bronze Age. We're talking about 5,000 years ago. And it's very exciting to uncover a wall, to find hand tools that someone last touched and last used 5,000 years ago. And we also have another excavation area up at the top of the site, high up at difference in elevation of about 100 meters, that's about 300 feet. And that's there we were looking for the remains of the Iron Age, the Old Testament, the biblical period. And we have there some remains of a building that's partly carved out of the bedrock, which we would like to date, although it's speculation at the moment, to the 9th century BCE, and perhaps to the time of Ahab and Jezebel. And Jezebel is somebody whose name is attached to Jezreel. That's what it's famous for in the Book of Kings. So we have everything here. We have the story from the Book of Kings, the Old Testament, and we have much, much earlier material going way back to 5,000 years ago. So, never a dull moment.